Hey everybody, Sean Holsinger here from HolsingersFlyShop.com, bringing you another video, this time a competition check nymph again. This is the Egan's Red Dart. This is one of the flies that Lance Egan used when he was competing, and he came up with this overseas in one of the competitions for the world team, and it's a pretty cool fly. It's the Spanish at the time were using a fly with a red tag on the end of it. They use a yarn and things like that. And he used feathers on it to switch it up. And they were also doing well with prince nymphs. So he kind of combined the two together. And this is what he came up with, and it catches a lot of fish. Let's get into tying it here. We're going to start out by tying this on a Firehole 633 hook. And for the bead, I'm going to use one of the bronze tungsten slotted beads in a 7/64. And yes, that's right, I'm using a slotted bead on a regular hook, not a jig hook. And I was watching one of Lance's videos when he tied this, and he explained why he does it, and I really liked the explanation on it, so I started doing it too. I'll get into that here in a second. Next thing I'm going to put on is 3 or 4 wraps of .015 lead. And the lead is going to hold the bead up there in place, and it's going to push it. You can use that slot to push it so the heavier part of the bead is on the top of the fly. And I got to push it up here a little bit tighter with my thread and get it to hold it in place there. But that's one of the reasons why you're using the lead, is to hold it in place. Okay, now to get into why he's using it, on the slotted beads, on the hooks actually, you can see on this one I have an upturned point on the hook, okay? And then if you had, a lot of them do, the better ones do, then if you had a jig hook, the eye would come down here, protrude down instead of out like this. It protrudes down, so you have less of a hook gap area. So you have less hookups, a harder chance of hooking up with the smaller hook gap. I like a wider hook gap. Like, especially when I go up to New York fishing for salmon and steelhead and stuff like that, I prefer the wider hook gap. And a lot of the hooks I use, if you see my videos using them, it's like Daiichi X510s, big wide hook gap and things like that. So I liked his explanation on that, and I'm going to tie him this way for the same reason. Now the next thing we're going to use, I'm going to use, this is a strung saddle feather, a red strung saddle feather. I'm just going to pull off about 10 or 15 fibers on there, a decent clump. You want to make sure you see this, and then we're going to tie it down on the hook. And like always, I want the length of the tail about the length of the fly. Okay, so we'll just pull it on there where we want it. Got it set. Now sometimes I try to get it back there as far as I can so I can make my fly as long as I want it to. And sometimes you get a little too far and it bends around the hook, so just stop that. You can always do a wrap or two underneath it, and it'll pull it back up into place, and it'll keep it going straight off that hook like you can see there. So we'll tie this off, cut this off. The next thing I'm going to put on is a piece of peacock crystal flash, just one strand of it. And this is going to be the ribbing on our fly. And we'll get that tied on there, and then we'll just tie it back to our tail and trim this off. Okay, then we're going to put some peacock ice stub on, but I'm going to wax my thread just a little bit. I like using this Swax, high-tack Swax. It's very sticky, does a really nice job, but in the same token, it's very sticky, so if it touches anything else, you got a mess. But it really holds your dubbing on your thread. So I don't need a whole lot of this. I just want to cover that hook. I don't want to make it real fat. So just dub that on there, and then wind it up the hook, keeping it thin and going up the hook. And I want to get it right about there. Pull a little off of here, or tighten it up a little bit. There we go. I need to make room for a collar, but we're going to spin our crystal flash on here to rib this. Just giving it a little bit more flash. This is a flashy fly. Oops. Okay, and then tie it off. Okay, now, like I said, he combined these tag nymphs with the prince nymph. So for the next thing I'm going to use is I'm going to use just a brown saddle, or not saddle, a brown hackle off a wet fly. This is actually off of Brahma, one of my Brahma hen saddles that I use, you know, for tying nymphs. You know how I like to use the feathers at the bottom. They make a great partridge substitute. This one's dyed brown. And this is actually one of the neck hackles on that. So I'm just going to tie that in by the point and then put my hackle pliers on. And I'm going to get about 2 wraps of this, and I'm going to try to tease these fibers backwards as I wrap. I don't want it real thick. Thin as in with fly fishing. So there we go. We're going to get that on there. About 2 wraps of hackle on there at the most. Just enough where you got it going. You got fibers the whole way around. Okay. Then the last thing we're going to do, we're going to put a little collar on this. For the collar, we're going to use some ice dub pink. UV ice dub. And it doesn't take much of this at all to fill that collar up. Oh, and I forgot, we're using, this is 140, you could go 70 denier red thread, either way, but you want red thread because we're going to finish this off with a red collar here in a second. Alright, and then we're just going to get that pink ice dub collar, and then a couple wraps right behind the bead, and we'll finish it off. And that is all that is to Egan's Red Dart. I fished this a little bit. I've caught a few fish on it. I just started fishing it. My son Colton, if you follow him on Instagram, he does a lot of fishing with, he likes to fish with a blowtorch, and I told him the other day, I wanted him to try this, so I told him the other day that I didn't have any blowtorches. Try this, it's pretty close. He went out, and I'll show you this picture right here. Caught a very nice 18-inch wild brown fishing with this. Caught a lot of fish that day. One of them was a really nice wild brown. So this is a really good fly, especially for the Euro nymph fishing style. And you need to give it a try. Have it in your box. Anything you need to tie this fly or other flies, you can find at our shop at holsingersflyshop.com. And like always, please check us out on the website, on Instagram, Facebook. Anywhere else you can find us. Shoot me a message if you need to. If you have any questions, leave a comment on our video. Thanks for watching, everybody. I really enjoy bringing these to you, and I'll be back again next week. I'm Sean Holsinger.